predict she has bolted in.
You know, you hear reports back from the trainers all the time. Oh, that was nice. You know, Savabeel just turned 3 coming up. So for us, watching his progeny go out there and perform and do it is the biggest thrill ever.
Like a shot out of a gun. The mare races to the lead. The United States giving chase. Then Happy Clapper, but Lucia Valentina. What a slashing win in the Queen Elizabeth.
Right over the top of them. No Beer, absolutely stunning. No Beer won the Guineas.
Cascading right down the outside, but Mo'unga's won it. Mo'unga, I think's beaten very elegant. Mo'unga, the gun colt by Savabeel.
Furness is trying hard, but they won't get those famous colours again. Cool as a Bell won the Group 1. Second over was...
Savabeel the legend. Yeah, he's just collected his 8th New Zealand Sire Championship title, which equals Volksrad, and his 2nd to Foxbridge on 11. And he's just been an incredible horse for us. He was an incredible horse from day one. He was a high profile horse. He was a Cox Plate winner. He was the first $10 million stallion purchase price to come to New Zealand. And look, he's just been an incredible stallion for Waikato stud. He's great to have around here. He's a real gentleman. He's a real character. I think with those successful stallions, they know they're successful. The camera comes out plenty of times and they know what a camera is. He's been a massive part of the growth of our operation. He's a massive part of our business. He's a massive part of our family. He's a massive part of the whole team here at Waikato Stud, and you know, his success is, you know, second to none in these modern times.
I spoke to John Hasler at the sales, and he said he'd go on a horse with us. He bred Savannah Success, and I quite liked her. She was, I think, 21,000. She ended up a very good filly. She won the New Zealand Oaks. She won as a 2-year-old, took her to Australia. She won the Vinery Stakes. And then we brought her home here and we put her to Savabeel. And we sold her to Jerry Harvey in foal and with the Savabeel at foot.
He was put back through the Gold Coast Magic Million sale ring, making 400,000, and bought back by Graham Rogerson. Rogie set up a great group to race him.
Oh, Graham hadn't been in the country that long, and he was introduced to me, and I had a few horses with him, and he had a lot of faith in the Savabeel. I didn't hesitate, really. Well, I love this colour, jet black, beautiful looking horse.
He was a bit cheeky, typical colt, but he did like females a lot better than the males at that time, and even right through.
Debbie wrote him a lot of his work, and he was very quiet with her, and any men around, he'd bite you. But that was him. He always wanted to be the boss.
His first start was at Randwick in a heavy 10, what we'll call a heavy 10 over here then, 1,300 metres, and he was 60 to 1 or something, and he flew, and I thought we had something from that first start.
He won his first start, and he always showed the potential to be a 1.25 mile horse. He was a very good stayer and very fast.
Came back as a 3-year-old, and it was about at that stage there that we paid a visit to Randwick track when we were over there selling yearlings. We'd spent the morning on the inner track, and on the way back out that morning, Rogie said, "Come and look at my good horse." And we went and looked at Savabeel, and obviously in admiration. He was a lovely type of, you know, big, imposing black horse that had performed as a 2-year-old.
His big coming was when he won the Champion Stakes, Group 1, 1.25 miles.
His form had been good. He was getting out to a distance that really suited him, the 2,000 metres. Obviously, he'd raced in a few nice 2-year-old races, and he was an improving 3-year-old, and we all knew he could stay.
And then we took him down to Melbourne.
I'd sort of been a little bit reluctant. I suppose those last few 3-year-olds I'd ridden hadn't really been competitive, and You know, when you're getting down to ride 48 kilos is always a bit of a concern. I thought his gallop at Moonee Valley on the Tuesday before was very strong.
And his work, he was getting better and better, and his work on the Tuesday morning was outstanding. He'd worked phenomenal. And at the breakfast with the stars, I think I declared him that he'd win the Cox Plate.
He told the whole world he was unbeatable, and he was true to his word, you know. Yes, he talked it up hill and down dale.
I thought he'd be very hard to beat. He sort of kept on improving. I certainly had a lot of confidence in his ability.
Stand, racing, left the gate well. Elstrom, although dropped out after the start and away quickly, Miss Potential and Regal Roller. They bounced out very quickly from Savabeel, our Egyptian rain and Fields.
It was interesting because on the Friday night before we'd had a conversation and we'd sort of decided we're probably try and ride him back a little bit with no weight on his back and ride him in a similar manner to octagonal, and that was our plan A basically. But then as soon as the barriers flew open and he began as well as he did and travelled strongly where he was, I'm thinking, well, I can't fight him and wrestle him and go, you know, back just for the sake of it. And it was probably a winning move by just being able to get him to relax and travel.
Half in front of Miss Potential, two to Savabeel, two further back elegant fashion, then out Miss Potential. And
In my sporting experiences and what I've been and seen, I saw the Ali Fraser fight in the Philippines, the Thriller in Manila, but to win the Cox Plate, mate, in that environment, in that amphitheatre, it was just something else. You can actually shut your mind, recall sound and the atmosphere.
Savabeel took the lead from Regal Roller, then Fields of Omar down the centre. From Starcraft, Savabeel the leader. Fields of Omar starting to come up from the outside. Starcraft, Savabeel the leader. Fields of Omar and Starcraft trying hard, but Savabeel, 3/4 of a length to Fields of Omar second. Ahead third is Starcraft and Grandamia's run fourth. Then Elstrom further back.
We always love a colt, love a stallion coming to stud that has a turn of foot. He certainly showed it that day. He sat back off them, won easily.
And a 3-year-old wins for the first time since octagonal in 1995. You've got to be a champion 3-year-old to win this. We have seen a special 3-year-old win the Cox Plate.
Super duper, and he's bred to be a champion. Savabeel, Savannah Success, super mare herself.
He's won a Melbourne Cup, Chris Muntz. Now he's won a Cox Plate to go with it on Savabeel.
You know, there's a big build-up. There's a big build-up of pressure and excitement and all of those sort of things. And you know, when it all comes to fruition at the end, it's a very big thrill.
And I think we all remember Graham's post-race interviews about who were the believers and who weren't. He certainly made a few points about that.
I said he'll win. This horse is a great horse. I knew what he could run in sectionals, and he proved me right today.
It was just a thrilling, great ride, just a thrill. I still get goosebumps thinking about it today.
Everyone that sort of knew us and that was backing him, and we got emails and phone calls. And
I've got a photo in my office and it's got the soundtrack on it, and every now and again I push the button and hear the soundtrack, so it's good fun.
And then John Rolls, who'd done that song on Savabeel, it was unreal.
Savabeel and Rogerson are legends of this land. Glasses on, for good luck, they're racing.
To get up the next day and fly to Chicago, and all I have is a photo of him. I said to the stewards, I said, look, I won the Cox Plate. They sort of had a yawn about that. And by the time I got over to California, the captain came over and made notice of one of the owners of the horse of the Cox Plate. And of course, the following Saturday, he was a red hot favourite in the Derby.
Backed up again in the Derby, and he ran second, a very good, credible run.
The winner subsequently was a horse called Plastered from Western Australia. Flew down to the outside and never raced again, and it was just what happens in racing, you know. There's a few stories behind the story, but I'll just keep it at that.
Going back to when the purchase came about with Savabeel, He had been invited to Hong Kong, he had been vaccinated to go to Hong Kong, and he had had a reaction to that vaccination, and certainly Roger himself said, you know, the horse wasn't at his best. Bruce Perry rang me one afternoon and said, I gather they're doing a deal on Savabeel. And I said, well, crikey, you know, we'd love to stand a horse like Savabeel in New Zealand, but what are they talking? And he said 10 million. And it was him that encouraged me into the support that we would get in New Zealand to stand a horse like that, which encouraged me into getting off the phone and ringing Gary and prompting Gary to ring Graham.
We had a lot of offers for the horse. Gary Chittick rang me and I said, well, he's nearly sold. There was 3 people on the horse. He was $10 million, and at that time was a hell of a lot of money for New Zealand.
So we did a deal over the phone. Gary rang me at about 6 o'clock that night and said, righto, we own this horse, you better do something about it. So I spent the next 24 hours on the phone, cold calling people. You know, basically we had the job done probably at around about 12 hours, and the support was incredible. You know, there was a couple of people I rang that day, the likes of Brendan Cherry from Taylor at Trelawney Stud, that just took a share straight away.
So Savabeel was a natural progression for us to invest in. Having spent time with Sir Tristram back in the day, and having bought shares in Savabeel when he first went to stud, and I worked for the Cambridge Stud, and we had a lot of success with him over the years. A natural successor was something that we were always looking for. He was a stallion that was obviously on everybody's radar. When we got offered an opportunity to buy the share by Mark, left at it, loved it, loved the horse right from the start. He had a wonderful mixture of blend of style and type and pedigree and performance that we thought would be greatly beneficial to our breeding.
Those first 2 years he served a good book. He left nice foals, and then, as I say, year 3 and 4 were more difficult. He didn't have a lot of support with the sales companies and also the buyers.
You know, it hasn't been all beer and skittles. I can tell you some years at the sales, you know.
Oh, it frustrated the hell out of me. I can tell you, you know, those early days, it didn't help with Graham telling the world that everyone's got to have one. You know, he pushed it pretty hard. The Karaka sales were very frustrating for a few years.
We got through those years, and I really take my hat off to Savabeel. I have the most incredible admiration for him through that period when he had his knockers.
And as he got better and better, now it's a different story.
For the last sort of 10 or 12 years, we've been sending anywhere between 6 and 8 mares a year, and been really happy with the resultant progeny, not only commercially but also on the track.
Incredible shareholders. You know, we've had a fantastic group. Jim Barlow, right from day one, took a share straight away.
Tony Ryder with the Melbourne Cup runner being the chosen one, and we've all gone down there and got together and all got excited. And
Christopher Grace, Cobby Grace, for him to get the success with Shillelagh, etc.
Blew the whistle, drives through, and Shillelagh took on.
Nothing better than seeing those people that have supported you from day one and supported Savabeel from day one to get that success and them enjoy it and love it. Liv Britannia, as a shareholder, as a breeder, and as a purchaser of yearlings, highlighted by Lucia Valentina.
Lucia Valentina by a neck to either Ladari.
Lots. We've had a lot of luck with them, and Debbie had the costume, trained the Scarlet Lady. And
well, Scarlet Lady, of course, comes to the fore. As James McDonald said to me just a few weeks ago, I gave him a start with his Group 1, so he's very happy to be on Scarlet Lady, Queensland Oaks.
We've been lucky enough to have a couple running ourselves this season.
with Zaydani and Cheaper Than Divorce, Zaydani who won the Matriarch Stakes, and then a week later won the Ballarat Cup.
Stride for stride, Zaydani just in front of G1. Zaydani from our intrigue star, Ralph Thurner.
I'd have liked to have bought Novia. We sold Gary having lunch one day, the mother. He's got all the attributes that Savabeel had, and he looks magnificent, Novia.
But you know, one of the gratifying things for me is to see him winning over 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 metre races, perceived to be a staying type, and that's all he could do. But you know,
they keep getting better and better. They're 2-year-olds, they're sprinters, they're stayers.
He's the most incredible sire for versatility. He leaves fillies, he leaves colts, he leaves sprinters, he leaves 2-milers of all different ages.
He can act like a bloody 2-year-old still, but when we lead him out in the mornings going down the hill, he'll still bunny up and on all four, and he knows he's pretty good.
But on a personal level, it was it's kept me in racing. You know, he gave me a real start in racing, and I'm here today.
Not everybody was on board to start with, but there's very few that aren't on board now. And I think what he's done for New Zealand has just been unbelievable. Every time we go back and see him, he certainly does the place proud. And I went over when he had his first treadmill, when Gary and Mark got the treadmill for him, because he'd never been on a treadmill, but he soon got the hang of it.
He's created a legacy, he's created a community, he's created a massive Savabeel business, and long may it last. Today, happy 21.
Good boy. Oh, you're still feeling young, aren't you? Yes, that's good. You are.